Hi, welcome to the Raising Expert podcast. This is a podcast for founders raising or planning to raise pre-seed equity investment. We provide tips and advice on attracting investment from the right investors. You can listen to interviews with entrepreneurs sharing their investment secrets and experts giving their advice and tips. My name is Finlay. Thanks for joining me. And now, on with the show. Hi there, and welcome to the Raising Expert podcast. But more importantly, welcome to Judy Leung from Sweqlink. Hi, Judy.
Hi, Finlay. It's great to
be
here.
How are you? Yes, it's lovely to have you. Lovely to have you. Listen, another LinkedIn relationship is great, isn't it? How we've been able to meet people and talk to people the way things have moved forward recently. So I feel like I know you quite well just from a couple of conversations. So listen, let's chat about Sweqlink and how obviously it's relevant to raising investment, early stage businesses and how they get going. I'm really excited to hear about that. But why don't you tell us a little bit about you, the person, and then we can maybe hear the business story.
Yeah, sure. Let's start right from the beginning. I was actually Scottish born, which I don't think I've ever told you.
I didn't know that. No, you've not told me. Nice.
Yeah, I was born to immigrant parents. They immigrated over here. And my dad became an entrepreneur. He had to set up his own business. My mum ran it with him. Of course, because, when you immigrate to a new country, you don't know the language. It's a matter of survival, really, to be able to set up your own business. So I guess you could say I have some roots in entrepreneurship, but right from then, just watching them as I grew up. So born in Scotland, raised there for the first 8 years of my life. So that's why I don't have a Scottish accent anymore.
No, we'll let you off.
And my parents then went through a divorce, and we ended up then being raised by my mum on her own in London. And through that journey, I watched her build her life from scratch, from nothing, having nothing. We were, sharing a house with her family in London. And she started to get into investments and building her wealth that way. And I guess that's where the inspiration behind what I do now comes from.
Cool. Yeah. So I mean, these experiences live with us. They form us. They're really pretty strong, aren't they? So, listen, we'll pick up your Scottish story another time, rather than getting sidetracked there. But it really is. It's fascinating how those early periods form us. I'll just come back to you, and I often use this story about where my entrepreneurship comes from, because both my parents were in kind of like classic employed role, doctor and teacher. And I sort of looked a little bit unusual becoming an entrepreneur. That was kind of typical of their generation. That was real success to, go to university and get an employed role like that. But it was actually, looking back, another 2 generations that all 4 of my great-grandfathers were self-employed businesses, now and supported by their wives often, but let's say that it was them in varied ways. So we kind of maybe missed a couple of generations for me, but you had that direct influence by the sounds of things. Okay, right. Listen, you're more than qualified to help entrepreneurs and talk entrepreneurs. And going from there, what's the little jump maybe to actually developing Sweqlink? And is there a kind of eureka moment or something?
I would say there wasn't a eureka moment as such. I mean, my professional background, it's interesting that you talked about actually going into that your parents came from kind of like your usual paid employment and you were the one who jumped into entrepreneurship. So in our kind of culture, our parents wanted us to go into employment. They didn't want us to go into entrepreneurship because they wanted us to find a nice stable employment and access to a financial income that way that was stable and reliable. So for me, actually, I've spent the past 20 years in just paid employment. I started off being a marketing assistant. My first job was a marketing assistant for a very small B2B mail order company. So this was before the internet, in fact, showing my age here.
Yeah, you don't look old enough. You don't look old enough.
Yeah, I get that a lot. But yeah, my first job was a marketing assistant supporting them. And then I actually got into web development in my final year at university.
I see.
So I was studying to be a product designer. And then I started to learn about web design and web development, self-taught myself how to actually design and build websites, built them their first website. And then from there, my career kind of just went off into digital. So I've had almost kind of every role within digital, from design through to marketing, through to project management, and actually doing some development work as well. So that's kind of like where my professional background is. And the opportunity with Sweqlink came about. So what many people don't actually realize is I'm not the original founder of Sweqlink.
Okay, right. Tell us more.
The original founder is actually my brother. So my brother had the idea back in around about 2018. And that was based on his own experience of having a startup. So my brother was actually one who was always very entrepreneurial. He was the kid that was selling sweets in the playground.
Oh yeah, that classic story.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Yeah. So he had previous experience of building a startup, and he recognized the issue that entrepreneurs face when it comes to access to opportunities and skills and network. We were kind of like a working class family. We didn't have the network to access investment. So how he managed to get his startup off the ground was through sweat equity, by offering equity in his startup to people who could help him develop the proposition. And that's kind of where the inspiration came from. He wanted then to build a platform that made it easier for other entrepreneurs that face the same issues to be able to find sweat equity partners.
Got you. Well, that's a nice founder's story. Obviously very close link when it's your brother, but there's a kind of parallel story, if you like. And then how did that join up then? Did you offer your services, or did he say, "Hey, Judy, can you help me"? How did that come together?
Yeah, so in the initial days back in 2018, he came to me with this idea, and I thought, great, good luck. I was in my job, I was kind of happy where I was, and it paid the bills, and I needed to. I had I think one young child then, and mortgage and all that, and then he spent a few £1,000s trying to build a platform himself, trying to get it off the ground. It was based on an off-the-shelf kind of dating software that you can get.
Okay. I could see how that could work,
Yeah, which he tried to kind of mold it and get it to fit for his purposes. And eventually kind of life happened. He met someone and they started a young family, and he needed to go back into employment as well. And this is the journey that a lot of founders face as well. So it was kind of a side project for a couple of years. And then the opportunity came where in terms of my own personal career development, I was ready to take a break. I just had my second child. Okay. And I was thinking, well, you know what? I don't actually want to do this until I'm 50. And I started to reassess my own career path. So then Andrew, my brother, came to me and said, well, would you like to help me build this? Would you like to help me get this kicked back up again? So I thought, okay, yeah, I'll come in as a sweat equity partner, essentially.
Right, nice, yeah.
And help him build the new site, which was quite a challenge. At first, I tried to work with what he had, but it was so dated in terms of technology and everything. So I basically rebuilt the platform. This is when I started to get into entrepreneurship and learn about the lean startup methodology.
All right, I see. Okay.
And then, so we're talking, building a minimum viable product and launching it, get your customer feedback, get those feedback loops in place, and build from there. Actually test the market to see whether there's a demand, and whether you can actually validate your business idea.
Yeah, I mean that's great. It's such a great story. So many things going on there, and it's one of the reasons that I love this platform, because it is so organic. That just comes through, that it's not a corporate development. And so hearing more about that story about you and your brother, it makes so much sense. And listen, we've maybe danced around it a little bit. You've told us briefly about the platform, but maybe you can give us, the classic little elevator pitch. How do you describe it? How do you describe it now when you're talking to people?
Yeah, so basically we are the Sweat Equity Talent Platform. We help entrepreneurs at pre-seed, pre-revenue stage find work for equity talent. And at that same time, we're giving talent the opportunity to share in the future success of the companies that they're helping to build. That's my elevator pitch.
That's nice. It's good. That's the soundbite. If I need to find a clip for the soundbite, Judy, that's it. That's it right there. And like every good platform, it's got to work. It's two-sided, isn't it? So there's that double benefit, and then the kind of the synergy piece, which is lovely. And just coming back to that piece about how you almost put yourself through a mini MBA or whatever. You were learning about lean and so on. But that how you spoke about the minimum viable product. I'm out there talking to similar customers to yours, startups. And so often we just have to try and send them back and say, listen, they're desperate to talk to investors, but it's listen, if you don't have some traction and something tangible to show them, you're really still at an idea stage, and you're going to waste a lot of time, energy, and probably money by going out. Let's just put them back into the loop. And so interestingly, when we started talking, I was actually using a slide to signpost people to Sweqlink to just do exactly that. It's listen, go and actually build the thing. Maybe here's a way to find someone that can help you. I don't know, how much have you looked at the ecosystem or entrepreneurship in the US compared to us in the United Kingdom, where this model to me seems more common. Have you seen much of that yourself?
Yes, we have. We have a few members on our platform who are based in the US, and for them, it's something that's quite familiar to them. For us here, I speak to a lot of people and they still haven't even heard of the term sweat equity or the concept of working for equity. So it's definitely, an opportunity here for us. But I would say the appetite as well is quite different. The way people approach the openness in the US, it seems to be something which they embrace, because a lot of entrepreneurs out there, a lot of investors out there as well, they were ex-operators. So they've been through the process of entrepreneurship. They founded companies before, and they understand the importance of sweat equity in the early days, and then using it to build like your MVP, to build enough traction before you're at a point to actually go out and start speaking to investors.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting, and not wanting to get too deep. Where does that sit? Is it a cultural thing, or is it just a purely a business thing? And is there a characteristic within? And obviously, the United Kingdom's very diverse. And I sometimes get in trouble by saying, in Scotland, where I do most of my work, or certainly the majority, are we more conservative in those terms? And, I talk about the cake and not wanting to share it. And so you own, all of a small cake or a small pie, or that mindset. Is it a mindset, or is it awareness, as you say? You're obviously evangelizing. I talk about it quite a lot in the work that I do. Or do you think, is there maybe a characteristic differences across the Atlantic?
I think a lot of it is awareness as well. I recently ran a masterclass where I talked about equity and how you should think about it in terms of the pie, like you say, and not holding on to equity because, like 10% of something that's worth nothing is still nothing, right? And there's a lot of misconceptions around how dilution and equity works. I think that people, because we always talk about equity ownership in percentages rather than in actual number of shares, when you feel like that percentage is going lower or going down as dilution happens, you think, well, hang on a minute here, something that's not right, I'm losing out here. But actually, that's not true, because although your percentage may be going down in terms of you're being diluted, you still own the same amount of shares. So I think there's a massive kind of education piece around that. For founders and for sweat equity talent in particular, who are not actually predisposed to this kind of information on an everyday basis.
No, and that's probably a piece that I don't do so much work on. So, that's quite interesting. You're talking to the other side of your market almost, or people who are, technically focused and maybe haven't thought about, the idea side and building the business itself. So that's quite an interesting distinction. You're absolutely right on that. There needs to be a third and maybe a fourth column in that. So there's the simple arithmetic around shares and the dilution piece. But the other piece is, if the valuation, so I use a cake on my slides and we're talking, right, well, the value of the cake is always going up. Therefore, that last column could go from 100,000 to 1 million, although you own a much smaller percentage or significantly less as time goes on, maybe over a couple of years period. And I guess because we do this sort of work almost every day, it seems it's kind of intuitive, but there is. I'm probably with you. If there was more awareness, then it might be more common to see it in investing or growing your business, rather. and this the same is true. So let's say that you're helping people before they're totally ready to take on even angel investment, but it's the same blend of skills and experience that you're looking for. So I try and stress, like, you're looking for an angel maybe with 50 or £100,000 to invest, but it's their background and their characteristics which are just as important. So you're actually taking that element of it, and then the sweat, the people's time actually is equivalent to cash. So it's kind of the same story, maybe just at different stages that we're trying to get the same message across.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when I speak to founders who are looking for sweat equity, I often find that their approach and thinking is perhaps not quite aligned correctly, because they treat it like it's another job role. It's not like any other job role that you're hiring for. Because first of all, you're bringing on someone who is a partner in your business, but also because that person is taking on a massive risk in the same way that an angel investor would as well. They're just risking the time, which arguably is actually more worth more than cash. Cash is, you can always earn more cash, make more cash. You can't make more time.
No.
So I try to educate founders in looking at it from that perspective as well. So when you understand the reasons why people would work for equity, it helps you, I guess, develop and craft your proposition a bit better as well, in terms of attracting sweat equity talent.
Yeah, no. Again, that's a really interesting way to look at your talent coming in, and I often see a similar problem in that businesses pitching for investment pitch their business idea rather than pitching it as an investment opportunity to angels. Yes, they've got to understand the value proposition, and that's got to be good. But there's another piece, and you're right. They're putting, in this case, their cash at risk. But it's an interesting way to look at it. It's like, well, they've put in their time, which is possibly worse because you can't get it back. Now, and where there's risk, there's obviously, how do we de-risk it? And, you can go to lawyers often, can't you? And there's legal work and contracts and so on. And if I understand correctly, on the platform, you're trying to help people formalize that a little bit. So it's not just an agreement or, a handshake over a coffee or whatever. There's a bit more structure to it. Is that right?
Yes, yeah. So basically trying to introduce more of a pragmatic approach to, first of all, hitting that negotiation. Because at the end of the day, there is a negotiation, just like you negotiate with a potential investor. There's things to take into account, such as the value of the company and how much the equity is worth. But then also actually contractualizing it, so it is a formal agreement rather than, like you say, a handshake, or a kind of I think about 5% or I think about 15% or whatever it is, because when you do that, unless you're very experienced, you need to consider the impact that it's going to have on your future raises. So each round that you're going through, you're going to be diluted in terms of the equity. And if you give away too much in the beginning for someone in terms of sweat equity, because you've not thought about your roadmap to raising, that can have really bad consequences for the company.
Yeah, totally. It can be quite off-putting, and as you say, it's often just, well, let's think of a number that is small enough to make the founder comfortable, but big enough to make whoever's coming in as a partner attractive enough. And if you start at numbers like 5, 10, 15, that's really going to have repercussions further down the line. But again, this is certainly a conversation I have multiple times every week. It's so difficult to value early stage, even with any revenue. And I'm seeing quite a lot of convertible loan notes and so on, in the early stages. As I say, even with businesses with some revenue, so they're not maybe managing to absolutely nail on a valuation or advanced subscription agreements. And, the likes of Seed Legals have done some great work in bringing products to the market for this space. What are you advising people to do to try and find that valuation or some mechanism to get close to an agreement?
So the way we've done it, and the way I recommend to other founders, I guess, is there is a model called the Berkus method. It's spelled BERKUS, which is kind of recognized as probably the only framework and method out there for valuing at a pre-revenue stage. And how that works is it splits your business proposition up into, I think it's 5 different areas, such as the team expertise, the progress you've made. I think another one was the market size. Mm-hmm. And you give it a scoring. There's a score system, essentially, like, let's say each one of those sections is worth 20%. And then there's a separate piece to that, which is taking into the market conditions. So just reading up on the current market conditions for peers in the same industry at the same stage. What kind of valuation are we looking at for pre-seed companies within, let's say, SaaS or within whatever industry it is? And then using those 2 elements together to arrive at a kind of sensible valuation.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And when we finish this file off, the Berkus should appear on your subtitles, and I can pop it into the notes as well, just so people can go and find that. I think it's good advice. It's pragmatic, as you say. So no, thanks for that. And yeah, the marketplace is that that's a kind of reality check as well. It's like selling your house, isn't it? If you think it's worth £1 million, but everyone else is selling houses on your street at £500,000, it's like, well, you're probably not going to get £1 million for your house, similar house. And there's no hiding place there, really. Good advice. Listen, let's look forward a little bit for your own business, and you've maybe got plans you want to share with us. What else are you going to add into the platform in the near term, and maybe further into the future?
So we are on the cusp of launching our new re-platform. So last year we managed to raise a bit of investment ourselves.
All right, cool.
To essentially deliver our next major milestone, which is the re-platforming of the MVP. So we spend that money to outsource the development and build it on something that was more stable and scalable. So that will be launching imminently. But as any founder, I think, can relate to, I've been saying that for the past couple of months, trying to get it over the line. But yeah, we're very, very close now. So that is coming soon. And for us, as an entrepreneur and as a startup founder, it is getting to revenue generation now.
Great.
So we have been making a small amount of revenue this year, but this new re-platform will be essentially the kind of like a core income model, revenue model for us. And it is launching that and getting that to market. And let's see whether people would pay for what we're offering and how much they would pay.
Yeah.
It's
just you've got to kind of test that a little bit because you're fairly unique, aren't you? So it's not like there's an obvious standard like other industry sectors or whatever. And maybe jump in about, maybe it's not too far in the future, but I was thinking further into the future. Almost every conversation we have just now, we end up talking about artificial intelligence. Have you been able to, at this stage, build anything that looks like artificial intelligence in, or do you think there is maybe an opportunity further down the line to do that?
We have actually started on something. So for us, we are a tech-enabled business as opposed to actually developing proprietary tech.
Right.
For AI, for us, we see an opportunity there to help us streamline our processes and help us work more efficiently.
Got you.
So, I mean, I already use it in day-to-day stuff, like obviously marketing side of things, things like that. But last year we managed to get some funded support and have Lancaster University help us develop an AI model on the matchmaking side of things.
Oh, nice.
So we have the MVP of that, and next year it will be about actually how do we incorporate that into our workflows and slowly, eventually in the future, integrate that into the platform itself.
That's great. It's just going to become absolutely core to so many businesses, even those of us who think, well, I'm an advisor, it's what's in my head, whatever, it can't be replaced. But I think how you started talking about that to say, well, it's going to help in my day-to-day workflow. And then as we go, we're going to maybe bring it deeper into the organization. So, no, we'll watch out for that. It sounds good. And there's always help out there in the universities if you go, and maybe through an agency or whatever. I'm not sure how you did that, but that's another sort of challenge for us to close that divide a little bit, to try and get some of the support that are in these institutions into small businesses.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Listen, I'll just finish up. That was a way to look into the future. But if any of the listeners or my network could help you, what do you think they could do? I guess they could connect with you on LinkedIn and so on. What would be the best thing that we could do collectively?
Yeah, definitely connect with me LinkedIn. What I'm particularly keen to hear from people at the moment is if you've had any experience working for equity or paying in equity, whether that's positive or negative. I would really love to hear from you because it helps us understand the challenges that both sides face. Helps us develop the product in where we can offer the most value as well. So there's that. Please do connect with me on LinkedIn. And also, if you're an early stage founder as well, and you're thinking about using Sweqlink, then give us a follow or sign up to the platform. It is free to sign up. Or just get in touch with me and me to kind of chat some more.
Okay, that's great. There's a couple of options there. Again, I'll make sure that people have links to the website and to you, your LinkedIn profile as well as the business page. And it's interesting to hear that you've almost got a little research project, which is, I guess, your market intelligence going on in the background. So we'll try and share that with you. Listen, Judy, thank you very much for coming on and telling us your story. Let's keep in touch and keep us updated of progress. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you for me.
Thanks.